All right, so this video begins actually on page number 8 in your notes. We're about to go through fossils, the process of fossilization. So I'm actually going to jump ahead and I've rearranged things. We're going to do some stuff on page 9, and then there's another video that's going to come back and cover the stuff that's on page 8. But let's get started on these big words here. So I should actually get you to try and say this word on your own first. The word that we're looking at here is one called paleontology. So paleontology, if you like Friends, that's the job that Ross has on Friends. But essentially, it's the first step. We've had these theories for evolution, these theories for speciation, natural selection. We've gone through all that. But where did we get our evidence from? So our evidence just doesn't come from things that are alive. We also need to look at things that are no longer alive, but give us an indication of what things may have looked like in the past. So evolution is a theory, and all theories require some kind of evidence or body of work to support them. So what evidence do we have for this theory? So the first kind of biggest piece of evidence that we have for the theory of evolution is the study of paleontology. So this is the study of ancient life. Yeah, so ancient life, and usually is represented by fossils. So this is a gap, I think, on your notes on page 8 there. And then what happens is we can look at the geological timescale, like that video that we just watched, and the artifacts that we find along different points, and that gives us kind of our links between organisms. So what that comes up with is that whole great big body of evidence is called the fossil record. So the fossil record is kind of one centralized thing for the whole world, and it's our most direct and solid pieces of evidence that it shows us exactly, well, as much as we can know at the moment, how life has evolved on Earth. So what we do is we use fossils and we compare them to modern day animals, and we can determine their relatedness. Okay, so here's a giant mountain, and you can actually see that they've taken almost like a little kind of transect throughout the whole thing. So what is a fossil? So you probably already know what a fossil is, but if you were looking for a pure definition, it's the preserved remains of an organism. So something dies and it gets preserved. It doesn't just get eaten or taken away. So it's direct evidence that it existed at a particular time period. So these things here, you've got these are called ammonites, and the ammonites, sorry, there's a little bit of a pause in the middle there. The ammonites, and I'm just going to look this up. The ammonites were around between 409 to 66 million years ago. And so we've found them in rocks that are aged all of those years. So what we do is we call these guys an index fossil. Now, I'm just looking to see in your notes whether or not you have something on index fossils. So yes, these are index fossils in the bottom of page 9. So this is a great indicator fossil because it has a really wide geographic distribution. You can find it in lots and lots of different places, and you know exactly when it was around, or particular types of ammonites. So although I said ammonites were around for, say, 350 million years, you can look at specific types of them, and we knew when they existed, and they're a really good index for us to look back and link to different time periods. We've also got, and it's not sharing, so I'm just going to try one more time just to share this with you. Let's see if this works. I'm going to pause and fix it. See, I told you I'd fix it. You've got these guys here. These are a completely preserved fossil. So if you've ever watched Jurassic Park, this is the kind of fossil that they found for Jurassic Park. They said that they had a mosquito preserved in amber, which is made from dried sap from trees, and it becomes a rock and it completely preserves it. And they said that inside that mosquito was dinosaur blood, and then they used the DNA from that to construct the whole of Jurassic Park. If you haven't seen the original, please don't think Jurassic World holds a candle to the whole thing. Go back and watch Jurassic Park. You can also get really cool fossils like this guy, and I'm just going to pause and find out when he was, because I haven't got that written down, which is helpful. This is a mummified fossil, so I'm just going to find out. Okay, I didn't want to get my dates wrong. So he He was found, he is 39,000 years old. They have nicknamed him Yucca, and he's a woolly mammoth that they found in Russia. So he's almost completely preserved, which is pretty cool. Then the last type we have here are what we call our classic fossils. These are the ones you might see when you go to the museum. These are the bones. Now, they're not necessarily the bones. What's happened is the bone is actually dissolved, and what's been replaced with the bone is now minerals and rocks. So these are rocks in the shapes of the bones that were once there. So let's just have a look. Oh, and here's another one which has just managed to be probably frozen. I'm guessing this fossil was a frozen fossil, like the mummified ones. They just become trapped, and therefore they stay as intact as we can possibly keep them, so long as they don't get eaten. So let's go and have a look at the top of page number 9. So you have this image, but you need to be able to describe the process of fossilization. So to begin with, the fossil has to, or the animal has to die, and it has to remain undisturbed. This is a really big part to it. So once your animal dies and it remains undisturbed, so it doesn't get eaten, it doesn't get kind of blown away by the wind. Usually it helps if it kind of dies near water. It gets buried really quickly underneath sediment or sand. And so something that allows it to die and remain undisturbed. It then starts, you might get some decay of the soft tissues, but the biggest thing is it starts to get sediment accumulation. So this is layers of mud or sand that build up on top of your fossil. Now, eventually over time that gets compressed. Now this is missing, so that gets compressed. And after it's been compressed, it can become compacted and become rock. Compacted, they become rock. So the minerals in the rocks surrounding leach into the bones and replace the calcium in the bones usually. So that's calcium that makes up a lot of the bone structure, and so therefore they become rocks. After a while, you get some movement of tectonic plates, or you get some earthquakes or something that causes them to uplift, or you get erosion of the rocks on top, and then you lead to the discovery of the fossils over here. So they're kind of your little process of fossilization, is all about dying and remaining undisturbed. You get buried by layers of sediment, then you get compressed and compacted and maybe turned into rock because the minerals go in there, and then you've got to be discovered. So there's your process of fossilization. So to begin then, to follow on from here, we need to think about what makes a good fossil. Now, I've already discussed it. You might want to pause and think about it yourself. Just go, okay, I'm going to try and come up with 3 factors that can affect fossilization and what would make a good fossil. So I'm hoping that you're pausing. And you're now back. All right, so what we find are the hard parts of the organism make much better fossils than the soft parts. Why? Now, soft parts don't make good fossils because they're going to A, decay, or they're just going to be eaten by something, and essentially they're going to rot away. Yeah, so the conditions to fossilize flesh are actually very, very difficult and very, very rare. So things that might have fallen into a peat bog or into tar, that might become a completely mummified fossil, something that needs to be preserved precisely. So a lot of our fossils don't get that process, so you'll find that they aren't anything other than the hard parts. So the hard parts for us would mean our bones. What other hard parts can you think of? Those other hard parts might include, so we've got hard parts might be your bones. Other hard parts might be shells, might be teeth, might be insect casings, something like that. Yes? So the hard parts are way more likely to be fossilized. Let's have a move on, if I can. So the last little bit for this video is what kind of conditions do we need for fossilization to occur? Because not everything that dies becomes a fossil. Let's think about what we need. So to begin with, we definitely need rapid burial. So you need to be buried fast. As a result of that rapid burial, and this is the statement that you always write, what conditions you need rapid burial. You can't get decomposed. You can't get disturbed by things eating you. You also want to not make the rock move, or whatever you are being buried in, move very much, because that will help you to become a fossil. So now we've finished that, and we've now gone through about half of page 9 and the very top of page 8, just to make it a little bit confusing. The next video I'm going to go through is going to be the different types of fossils that you might find.